Anora is the most obnoxious movie I've ever seen, and it was not good at all. This movie takes us on a boring journey. Mind you, this movie says it's a drama comedy. I didn't laugh one time, except for when he said, "All right, bye," and left her there at the house. That was hilarious, I guess. But everything else about this movie, there's nothing in here that was funny to me. This movie was also at Festival de Cannes. De Cannes? I don't know. I still never learned to pronounce it since the other movies that I talked about from that same festival, which were The Substance and Amelia Perez. I think the best one out of all of these three might have just been The Substance, and even that movie was decent. I said it was decent. This festival apparently has the worst movies, or I'm just picking the wrong ones. So we have this young boy who travels to America from Russia to have a little bit of fun with a escort. At first, I thought this movie was initially set up to be about a simp. Turns out he was just a stupid boy who wanted to have a little bit of fun for a couple of weeks and didn't know that he should have a prostitute sign a prenup first. Yes, you heard that correctly. This kid, guy, boy, whatever, I don't know anybody's age, thought it would be a good idea to get married in Vegas to a prostitute for fun. The first half of this movie, it was just nothing but yelling and screaming and just nonsense. It kind of gave me a headache, to be honest. And I was just sitting there the whole time like, okay, do you not have anything better to add to this movie besides yelling and screaming? It got so bad to a point where I just felt like it was a gimmick. It just turned into one. I was so close to completely turning off the movie and not finishing it. And then I was like, you know what? If I can finish Amelia Perez, I can finish this. Apparently, this movie got nominated for like an Oscar or something or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't watch the Oscars or any kind of award shows because I don't care to waste my time on that. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm watching it and I'm like, why? I don't even know where to start. I mean, this movie was just so bad. It was so bad. It was doing too much. We were sitting here, and I felt like the movie was trying to get us to see this movie from the perspective of the prostitute, but I just couldn't do that. I was mostly, actually, I wasn't even, was I watching it from the boy's perspective? Maybe a little, but I was also watching this from the perspective of someone, if I've seen this happen to somebody I know in real life, I would be so, oh man, I'd be so disappointed, or at least worried for them. Like, there's no way you married a hooker. There's absolutely no way, right? You know how much money your family has, and you think it's a good idea to marry someone like that for fun without thinking about the fact that so many things can go wrong. She can use you. She can take your money. She can literally take you for everything you have. Matter of fact, she can give you tons of diseases, by the way. Did you two even get tested? I didn't see that in the movie. This kid didn't even have her sign a prenup. A girl that he just met. Make it make sense. The second that these two met and started to whatever, and then she went to his parents' house. It was his parents' house. It wasn't even his. I knew what it was. He was just here for a good time, not a long time. But he, unfortunately, was also too stupid to understand the potential consequences of the situation that he put himself in. And I think that's what his parents were trying to point out. And the fact that Anora couldn't even read the room is kind of sad, isn't it? Clearly, if he left you there at the house with these strange men that you don't know and ignored all of your phone calls and ignored you in person without saying a word until you got on the plane, and you still had the nerve to think that he was your husband, is nuts. I mean, read the effing room. Like, are you Delulu? By the way, if you're enjoying this episode of the podcast so far, please make sure to follow the podcast if you haven't on your preferred listening platform, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Also, be sure to leave a rating for the podcast if you choose to do so. By the way, I want to address this for a second. The second that the other guy left her in the house with these strange men, it should have been it. It should have been a tone shift for her. She should have had a whole different attitude on this guy, but she did not. She still kept calling him her husband, saying, "We got to find my husband. Get off of my husband. When he was eventually found, by the way, they found him in a strip club getting stripped on by another woman that Anora had beef with earlier in the movie. So this is what he was doing when he left her at the house. I'm like, is she serious right now? We're married. We're not getting a divorce. Are you crazy? Any normal person who sees their husband in a situation like this automatically is like, she came off as desperate at this point, right? Then they get to the car in the airport, and she's still trying to talk to him sweetly. He's completely effed up on so many substances right now. And you are pretending like none of this happened? I'm concerned. So, of course, my idea by the end of the movie is just left with, oh, she was probably just in it for the money. It was literally only a couple of weeks that they knew each other anyway. And there was no love there. I never saw the love there. It was just intercourse and substance use. That's all it was. That's all your relationship was. There was nothing there. This movie has a digestible amount of nudity. It is not too much, which is good. It's mostly at the beginning of the movie as well. There is a lot of substance use in the movie throughout it. I'd say that his parents in this movie made the right call. I think they were in the right mindset for, I feel like, what parents should be doing. They want to make sure that their son finds the right person. And, you know, she didn't seem like the right person. For all we know, she could have been after his money the entire time. And, I mean, you just never know. Anything can happen. And even if that wasn't the case, it could have turned into the case. My intention isn't to shade the woman in this movie for doing the job that she is doing, but I do think that accountability is a thing, and you need to take accountability for your actions. You chose this life, right? So don't be surprised when the guys who are seemingly interested in you aren't necessarily well-intentioned. Any guy who goes to a strip club or pays for an escort or a prostitute is probably not the right person for you anyway. She did ask for $15K just to date him. So in this movie, she is technically a prostitute. Then she said, I would have done it for $10K. Same for the guy, right? If you meet a girl at a place like this, you should probably assume that that is also not the right person. This entire thing was just a messy situation for everybody. And the Russian guy, the bald guy, I don't know his name. I didn't bother to know anybody's name in this movie because it was so annoying. I couldn't really focus on certain things in this movie just because of all the yelling and screaming that was just unnecessary, in my opinion. It could have been a good movie if they didn't overdo it with that. But the bald Russian dude by the end of the movie, I mean, guess what? This Anora chick lived up to the stereotype of being a prostitute. What we saw in this movie was just a representation of something. So she asked the weirdest question towards the end of the movie. She said, why didn't you RAPE me? And he goes, because I'm not duh, right? And I'm just sitting there like, that is something an actual SLUT would ask. And then the next thing she says is basically just like, she basically just said, I want you to. Like, she might as well have just said that. I watched an actual prostitute try to defend herself for being a prostitute and then continued to sleep with another guy right after her divorce. The other guy might have not been a simp, but this Russian bald dude definitely was a simp. From the moment he entered the picture, no pun intended, I could just already see simp on his face. The visuals were pretty good of this movie. I'm not gonna lie. The visuals were nice. But I didn't give a F about the visuals. I was watching this movie for the story, and it wasn't a good one. It was not a good one. It was not well told. I don't know. I feel it, like I said, it could have worked. One, if they didn't overdo it in the first half with all the yelling and screaming and all the obnoxious banter and the gimmicky BS. And then two, if they had told an actual story that mattered. The characters in this film were all one-dimensional. There was nothing to them. Nothing actually happened in this movie, by the way. There was no story. There was no real story being told here. I didn't really know what I was watching. It just felt like a series of events in someone's life. It didn't feel like a genuine story was being told here besides the glorification of prostitution. Yeah, that was my point of view watching this movie. I will say the acting was decent for what it was. Nobody in this movie was bad. I've never seen any of these actors before. If you disagree with anything that I said or my perspective on this movie, or if you had a different point of view on this, please let me know. I prefer respectful disagreement, but hey, you can't always get what you want. And be sure to turn on notifications so that you don't miss future podcast episodes. That'll be it for this one, and you'll hear me in the next one, if you choose to listen to it.